All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me today for another community chat. We are going to go ahead and get started. About 20 people on now. This chat should also be streaming live on our in-house TV channel. So there may be more people listening in than those that are with us here on the Zoom. And for those that are watching on your television, hi, we hope you're doing well. We're glad you're here. All right, we'll dive right into a few things. First, I'll just get out of the way COVID updates. We currently have zero positive or zero known positive cases of COVID-19 anywhere in the community. That includes residents, team members, also contracted workers that provide services here at the community. Which is fantastic. We, as of yesterday, we now are permitted to have all visitors, essential and non-essential visitors, permitted in all areas of the community. We weren't permitted to have non-essential visitors to the health center for a little while, but visits to the health center are now permitted. The current requirements for visitors to the health center are prior to each visit need to provide a proof of full vaccination against COVID-19 or a proof of a negative test that was administered within 72 hours prior to the start of the visit. That's for all visitors that are visiting the health center. The rest of the visitors to the community need to continue to be screened at the screening station. But we're not currently requiring proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test for visitors to other areas of the community outside of the health center. That, I think, will likely change at some point in what I would suspect is the not too distant future. The statewide order for requiring vaccination for vaccinations for visitors to the health center came from the California Department of Public Health that oversees healthcare facilities. The Department of Social Services, who oversees the rest of the community, will likely follow suit with a similar order, I would anticipate, in the next few weeks. But that is purely speculative on my part at this point. Any questions about visitors, protocol, or anything else COVID-19 related? I've muted everybody, but feel free to unmute yourselves at any time, or you can send a message over through the chat if that's
Bradley. Oh, Jean Lusk. Are visitors allowed in the dining room yet?
No. Thank you for asking that question. Currently, still not. Visitors are still not permitted in the dining room.
Bradley, me, Jan.
Hi, Jan.
Do you know if CVS is going to come here and give us our booster shot?
That is a great question and a topic that is on a lot of people's minds at the moment.
Yeah.
I can share. Has the weekly update come out yet? Has anyone seen that?
No.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. There'll be a little bit of information in the weekly updates on this topic. The current information from CDC, and there are lots of reports of this changing, but currently, as of actually this morning on the CDC's website, the CDC recommends a third
Booster.
vaccine shot. That's not technically, according to the CDC, a booster shot, but maybe it's semantics. But a third vaccine shot is recommended for moderately to severely immunocompromised individuals. And it is not currently recommended, at least as of this morning's on the CDC website, it's not currently recommended for other people that are not moderately to severely immunocompromised. And so there are a third vaccine shot is available through various different providers. I know through some of the pharmacies, Walgreens, and I don't know about the CVS here next door, but I know Kaiser is offering them as well. From what I am aware of, there are guidelines to determine who is recommended to get the third shot. But if to get a third shot, there's no proof or documentation of your sort of, I don't know, qualifying criteria to be eligible to get the third shot. So from what I understand, if the CVS next door is offering it, anyone can go in and get it. And I'm sure there's probably something that you'd sign or you'd have to answer some questions to indicate that you are moderately to severely immunocompromised. But like, it doesn't require a physician's order or any sort of health records to indicate that you are immunocompromised. There's a lot of reports that will be changing and that it will be officially available to anybody over the age of 18 or 16, I've heard. But that hasn't officially happened at this point. We've reached out to our partners at CVS who facilitated the vaccination clinics the first time here at the community to see if and when we can schedule an on-site clinic, under the assumption that in the not too distant future, everyone will be eligible to receive it, not just those that are immunocompromised. But we haven't gotten a definitive response back from them yet. So I'm hoping that by this time next week, we have more concrete information, both from the CDC as well as from CVS. And we'll make sure we communicate that as soon as we have it. For the time being, if you feel that, if residents feel that they fit the criteria, or if they've or not, I mean, recommend you contact your healthcare provider, have a conversation with them, and to determine if it would be appropriate for you to get a third shot, and take their direction from there. But like I said, hopefully within the next week, we should have some more information about possible clinics here on site.
Bradley,
Yes.
I have a comment, okay? From, I don't know if it was CDC, Dr. Fauci, or who, stated that as of September 20th, they would start offering the third vaccine And there would be a priority list like there was for the 2 vaccines that we've all received. And it will start with healthcare workers and people who live in facilities like this, and then go down. And that's the information that I have heard and gotten from various sources.
Yes, and I've heard similar information, but I don't. I mean, I don't have anything more concrete than that, or anything to confirm those dates or those plans. It may be out there. I'm not aware of it yet.
Okay.
So I think there's a lot of there's still a lot of unknowns at this point, and so we're trying to figure out what are the definitive knowns, and get that information shared out. But the definitive information is that currently I have no definitive information. How's that for an answer?
Okay.
Any other COVID related questions? We have a mandatory vaccination requirement for all of our team members, as well as contracted workers, and the deadline for having both of your vaccination shots or your single shot for Johnson & Johnson for all team members and contracted workers is a month from now, or a little over end of September. And so we are starting to see our team member vaccination rate increase slightly. There are legally required exemptions for medical or religious purposes. And just so everyone is aware how that process works, if a team member requests a medical or religious exemption, there's a team that works, a team that works for Human Good, called the I can't remember what it's called. It's a team of HR and legal professionals that reviews all of the requests for exemption that may come in from team members, to determine whether or not the exemption can or should or can't or shouldn't be accepted. So we'll see what happens between now and a month from now. And hopefully the goal is to get obviously all or as many team members as possible to get vaccinated. There's no plans. I haven't heard any speculation either of plans, and I don't anticipate it happening. But I know some have reached out and asked the question about if vaccinations are mandatory for or will be mandatory for residents, and there's not a requirement that residents be vaccinated, although I mean, we're basically our residents are, I think our vaccination rate for residents is over 98%. So the vast majority of our residents are vaccinated. All right. Another topic that I wanted to just briefly touch on is something that may not sound super exciting, to be totally honest, but I think it's important information that I wanted to share. And for those that were able to join the financial report, mid-year financial report yesterday. I touched on it a little bit, but one of the things that we're facing throughout the organization, definitely here at the Terrace de los Gatos, are sort of a perfect storm of supply chain challenges, which have created, and we anticipate will potentially create more challenges for some of our departments, especially our dining services department. What we're up against throughout everywhere is, for the last year plus, all restaurants, the vast majority of restaurants, vast majority of schools, stadiums, other venues have been, for all intents and purposes, shut down. And now, as all of those venues, schools, businesses are opening again, there is a huge demand for supplies that have not been readily available for the past year and a half because there hasn't been a huge demand for them. And so we're currently seeing, and we anticipate seeing, more shortages of raw materials, food, actual food. Not that we'll have a shortage of food, but it has proven challenging and will probably continue to prove challenging to get everything that we would like to get as easily as we would like. So there's supply challenges. There are, just like we're facing labor challenges in our industry, all of the supply chain industries, truck drivers, manufacturing plants, all of those industries are struggling with labor shortages as well, which causes service and delivery disruption. And so we haven't experienced it as bad as some other places have, but there's challenges of delivery drivers of just not showing up because they don't have a driver to make your daily or your weekly food or supply delivery. Orders being canceled because there simply aren't supplies to deliver, or there aren't resources to make those deliveries. As an organization, Human Good, we have a very strong purchasing team or procurement team that has a really solid plan in place to be able to make substitutions when we need to have alternate vendor options available when we need to. Our dining team is working hard to strategically write their menus and plan their menus based on what we anticipate will be more readily available than other products. And also increasing inventory of non-perishable items as much as we can in the anticipation that they may not be available in the future. So I feel like we've been saying this for the past year and a half, but thank you for being patient and understanding with some of these challenges. I think our dining services team has done a very, very good job over the past year and a half through incredibly challenging circumstances. Although things look like, at least at face value, things are getting more back to normal, there are significant sort of behind the scenes challenges that particularly our dining team are facing and likely get worse before it gets better. And so just thank you for your patience. If there are items that you order or that you're used to eating that may not be available, I promise you we're doing all we can to avoid those situations, but they are and will continue to be inevitable for the foreseeable future. I happened to stop at a Starbucks this morning on my way in, and it was interesting because on their menu board there were probably at least 6 or 7 items that were sort of scratched off or covered up with tape because they didn't have the items available. And I overheard a couple of different conversations of people trying to order things and they didn't have available, up to actually sugar packets. Starbucks didn't have sugar packets. And if you think of like Starbucks, right, and the sort of logistics, the infrastructure and the purchasing power of Starbucks, and they didn't have simple sugar packets available. If that's a sign of the challenges, if that's not a sign of the sort of supply chain challenges that are out there, I'm not sure what is. So thanks for your patience, and we apologize in advance for any challenges that may create.
Bradley,
Yes.
it's Gunilla. Would it be possible for the dining services to buy certain fresh item locally? Like now the sockeye salmon is in for around $12 a pound, which I think compete very much with the fish which you can get from the procurement. And I think Costco has enough supply that you could charge us a little more for, like you charge more for filet mignon than you do for ordinary meat for it. And that would give them a little more flexibility if they could go locally and buy some fresh items, but charge us a little more for it.
Yeah, that's an important question, and that is, I mean, to be totally honest, that is something that we're currently doing. Although we don't like to have to do that. Jerry Austin has put a lot of miles on his car over the past several months of running out to get. You mentioned salmon. I know there've been certainly in the past few weeks several instances where Jerry said, "Hey, I'm running out. I got to go buy 50 pounds of salmon." And it's not just that, but it's been others. It's really an interesting dynamic because right now, so once all the restaurants and everything shut down, all of the suppliers and all of the manufacturers, they shifted their attention to retail, to supermarkets and grocery stores. And so, you know, that's where the vast majority of all of their products were being sent and being sold. Now that demand is completely shifted, and there's a exponential growth in demand from restaurants and businesses and sort of corporate accounts from the suppliers and the manufacturers. And so there's this sort of challenge of being able to the suppliers are trying to serve that client base, which they're struggling to do, but in doing so, it also actually puts a strain on the supermarkets because they're shifting their attention from the supermarkets over to the other vendors. So what happens is you know, both sides of the market are being are struggling. But to answer your question, yes, in some cases that is an option, and we are doing that, but we'd prefer not to have to do that when it's avoidable.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm sorry that Jerry has to run around so much, but he's a good guy. I think that the whole dining room people are doing a fantastic job because they serve us very good food under difficult situations.
Thank you for mentioning that. I agree. Okay, let's see. Couple of other items. We have, just to mark your calendars, and we'll get some more information out in the coming days. We have flu clinic, flu shots that will be coming up next month. We're tentatively scheduled for September 20th and September 21st for flu clinics here on site. And that will be provided as we have done in years past through Safeway Pharmacy. So again, we'll get more details out with exact locations and times and what needs to be done in advance. But we're looking at flu shots for residents on September 20th and September 21st.
Bradley, this is Ruby. Will the Victor be taking a bus to Kaiser for flu shots, I hope?
Yes, I tentatively say, because I know last year there were some wrinkles in those plans because they weren't doing if I recall correctly, they weren't doing the drive-in clinics, or they couldn't take the whole group at a time. I know there were issues last year, and I don't remember the specifics of it. So we don't have anything confirmed yet with Kaiser. Our goal is to be able to do as we have in years past, not last year, but years before that, load up the bus and take those that have Kaiser to the Kaiser clinics, but not confirmed yet.
Thank you.
You are welcome. I think last year, I want to say, I don't remember what happened last year. They may have come here, or I don't know. Do you remember, Ruby, or anyone else?
Yeah, this is Sandy. We did transport residents, but you're right, it was drive-through type. It was not, and there was only specific area where we had to send residents, and I think it was Campbell, Kaiser.
Okay. All right, let's see here. Sorry, one second. I'm trying to pull open my notes here, which I've seemed to have lost on my computer. We are, this is for residential living residents. We have most residents. There are some technical issues that we're still working through, but the vast majority of residential living residents now have the ability to order meals online. So if you want to have a meal delivered, or to come and pick up a meal, you can now do it online, and that's through the dining cube on TLG Connect. We will be sending out, I think today, some instructions, a step-by-step guide on how to do that. And it's a pretty straightforward process. So for those residential living residents that may be interested, you would just go into the dining cube on TLG Connect, and then I think there's a button that says start order or place order, and then sort of follow the directions from there. But like I said, there's some step-by-step instructions that will be going out shortly. And there are a few residents' accounts that we're still having some technical issues with, but they should be resolved within the next few days and by next week. Hopefully by middle of next week, if not earlier, all of those issues would be resolved, and all residential living or residents will have the ability to place orders for their meals online. And let's see here. For those that either attended the financial mid-year financial report yesterday, or those that weren't able to attend that are interested, the slides from that presentation are available. They're up on TLG Connect. There's also some copies available at the concierge desk that the concierge would gladly provide for you. Give to you. So what we did is just a sort of a high level overview of the first 6 months of the year's operational financial operations, comparing those to last year. So if you're interested, check the news page on TLG Connect for those slides, or you can get copies of the slides at the concierge desk. There is an upcoming outing to the Oakland Zoo, which is my preferred zoo of the Bay Area. It is on, and Dana or Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, September 3rd?
Yes, September 3rd.
Great. So those that are interested, you can sign up through the activities cube, or you can sign up at the concierge desk. Space is capacity, but I think there are still spots available. So if you are interested, sign up. It should be a fun day. Dana, anything else to add about that?
No, but could I plug another trip we're going to have?
Plug away.
So the Silicon Valley Symphony is having a free show Labor Day weekend. So we'll be taking a bus there Sunday, September 5th. And you'll be seeing more information on TLG Connect and flyers out on your boxes.
Great. What was the date of that again? Sorry.
It is September 5th, Sunday, September 5th.
Okay. Great. Sounds good. Couple of other items. Let's see. Just a reminder from Dining Services. Thank you all for continuing to wear masks as much as possible while you are in the dining room. So we want to remind residents that once you're in the dining room, and this actually just goes for any of our dining rooms, really, we want to encourage residents to wear masks as much as possible. So if you're waiting for your food, or you're waiting to order, or you're up at the salad bar, we really want to encourage you to keep your masks on. Obviously, you got to take them off while you're eating and while you're drinking. But if you can, when you can, have your mask on, we want to encourage you to do so. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first reason, the most important reason, is obviously whenever there's a mask on, it significantly reduces the risk of potential infectious spread should you come in contact with someone who's sick. Also, what it does is it reduces I don't want to say it eliminates, but it reduces the potential to have to quarantine if you have potentially been in contact with someone that tests positive. So whenever there is somebody that tests positive, whether it's a team member or a resident or anyone, a visitor that happens to be in the community, so if we find out that somebody tests positive, then we go through a process of trying to identify who's been in contact with that individual, and does the contact or potential contact reach the point where that individual may need to quarantine for 2 weeks. And I know we're all tired of having to occasionally quarantine for 2 weeks. And so if you've been in contact, if you find out that you've been in contact with someone that has tested positive, there's a lot of factors involved, but one of those factors is whether or not you and the other person were wearing a mask. And so it reduces the potential to cross that threshold of where you would have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So maybe it's a little bit of a selfish reason. I don't know. But wear a mask to keep everyone safe, but also to slightly reduce the potential of having to quarantine potentially unnecessarily. Okay. I know I said we were done with talking about COVID earlier, but I do want to mention that one other thing that I failed to mention earlier. For any workers that work at the community that have not been fully vaccinated, they are required to wear additional PPE. So it depends on the situation, but in most cases that the team member would have to, or the team member, the worker would have to wear an N95 mask as well as a face shield. And that is something that the reason is because there's a greater risk. And so the additional PPE significantly reduce the potential risk to themselves and risk to others. That being said, I want to also point out that there are many reasons why team members may be wearing a face shield or an N95 mask. It may be because they have not yet been fully vaccinated, but it might be for other reasons as well, depending on what their job responsibilities are, or depending on their own personal preference. There may be team members that are wearing those pieces of protective equipment, even if they are fully vaccinated. I have, there's been some concerns expressed about making it very physically clear who, to residents or other team members or any other visitors, who may or may not be vaccinated for one reason or another. And I just ask that we all keep in mind that if somebody is wearing an N95 mask and or a face shield, it may be for any number of reasons. It may be because they're not fully vaccinated, but it might be for another reason as well. And it also may be that they're not fully vaccinated for a legitimate medical reason or religious reason. And we want to, as we always do, make all of our team members feel welcome and comfortable and included here at the community. There have been some other communities, not the Terraces of Los Gatos, where team members have, we actually had a few team members in another community that just walked off the job because they were being, I don't know other way to say it, they were being bullied by some residents, unfortunately, because those residents had made some assumptions about their vaccination status that I don't know if they were actually true or not. But obviously that's not something that is productive. So just want to mention that and thank everyone. If you do have any specific concerns, please reach out to a member of the leadership team, member the COVID team or myself. And we want to avoid situations where team members may feel targeted for one reason or another. I don't know if that makes sense, but if it does, great. If not, then just disregard what I said. Okay, I don't have anything else that I wanted to make sure to go over. So I'll open it up to those that are joining us for any questions or comments or feedback.
Hi, this is Sandy. As some of you know, Val has given her resignation, but she has opted to extend her stay here until next week. That's September, so September 3rd will be her last day at TLG. We will have a farewell social for her. And we have, thank you, Dana, for getting this for us, the cookies and cream ice cream truck coming at 1:30 p.m. That is the start of Val's farewell social. So you're all invited to come to the fountain court and get a treat of ice cream. They do have vegan and other types of lactose intolerant types of ice cream, they said. So it's a good thing.
Thank you, Sandy. And Sandy, one more time on the date of that.
It's next, not this week, but next week, Friday, September 3rd at 1:30 p.m. in the Fountain Court.
Great, thank you. We are excited for Val. It's always mixed emotions where we're sad to not be able to work with her on a daily basis, but we're excited for her and the future that is in store for her.
Yes, she said she's retiring.
Yep.
I told her she's always free to come back.
Thank you, Sandy, for mentioning that. I know that there was a question, I believe, on our last chat about a calendar for room reservations. I know that Sandy had reached out to Judy to see about what, get some more details about that. And I guess there was at some point a binder that was available for residents to be able to check and potentially reserve rooms. With the implementation of TLG Connect a couple of years ago, we phased that process out. We'll continue to look at options to be able to make that information more readily available. But until we have something else in place, just reach out to Dana to check room availability and to make room reservations for the various meeting or multi-purpose rooms throughout the community. Let's see, what else? Any other questions or topics that you would like to discuss? I believe the elevator work is, at least in residential living, the elevator work is complete. And I know that they're still working on some issues with the elevators in the main building. I think the elevator in the lodge is down today. But how do the elevators look? I haven't actually been in the elevators yet. Do they look nice? Did they turn out okay? Anyone?
It looks okay to me. The only thing that I noticed though, when I'm coming from the basement garage using the elevator in the Q and P building, is that when I press 1, it says 2 instead, you know, where it shows where the floor you're going to. I noticed that going up from the basement and coming down from the first floor to the basement.
Oh, interesting.
I'll let Vincent know about that.
Okay. Has anyone noticed that issue on other elevators? Okay.
So Bradley, the new walls on the elevators are elegant, but the net result, the elevators seem a little too dark. But that's probably curmudgeon talking.
Okay. No, I think that's good feedback. Thank you for the comments. A couple of other upcoming items to mention. Just a reminder that on a weekly basis, pretty much on a weekly basis, our transportation team coordinates or facilitates grocery store trips to the grocery stores. So next Wednesday is Trader Joe's. Following Wednesday, Safeway. Following Wednesday after that is Nob Hill. And if you'd like to join in on those trips, any of those trips out to the grocery store, sign up through TLG Connect, I believe. Is that correct, Dana?
Yes, sign up through TLG Connect or the front desk.
The front desk. Great.
Bradley, this is Barbara, and
Yes.
I've been wondering if anybody has considered putting solar panels on our roof to cut our electricity costs and to ensure that we have power.
Thank you for bringing that up. I know there has been conversation over the years about that, and I know I haven't been involved in any conversations about it for the last year and a half at least. I'm actually scheduled to meet with our corporate or regional director of buildings and grounds sometime in the next 2 weeks. I don't remember the date, and I'll bring that up with him and see what we might need to do to further explore that. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll put it on our agenda to discuss.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other topics that you'd like to discuss while we're all together?
Bradley,
Yes.
I would like, Jean Lusk, I would like to ask Dana if she has any trips scheduled, like to different restaurants in Morgan Hill or Carmel or any place like that.
Hi, Miss Lusk.
I
So
did.
it's been really hard to get reservations for restaurants just because big parties, a lot of restaurants aren't allowing for big parties. And when they do, they require a $3,000 minimum. So it's been really tough to get reservations for 22 people, 24 people, just because of COVID. So I've been putting that on hold just while the Delta variant is rising, cases are rising.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Thank you for being patient.
Absolutely.
I know. I think I recall seeing there was plans for one restaurant outing a week or two ago, and then it had to be canceled because of for COVID precautions. But thank you, Dana, for being on top of that, and I'm sure residents will be anxious to go once we can. Any other questions or comments or topics you'd like to discuss? Well, I think that we will call it a chat. Next week, we will not have a community chat. because it is first Thursday of the month. So we will have our state of the business meeting. It's funny, my wife Amy, I always tell her about work all the time, and she's tired of hearing about it, but she's patient and she listens. And whenever I tell her that either we have state of the business meeting coming up tomorrow, or we just had it, she always says, "Is that monthly meeting that it seems like you have every week?" And it doesn't seem like we just barely had state of the business, but here we are again. So next Thursday, 3:30, state of the business meeting instead of the community chat. Stay tuned for definitive location. Right now, we're planned to have it in the Fountain Court, as we have had for the past several months. There may be a chance that we have it in the GRA, but we'll wait and see what happens between now and then. But for now, we'll plan on the Fountain Court. Unless there's anything else, we'll close the meeting now. Thank you all so much for joining, and hope you all have an enjoyable rest of your day.
Thank you, Bradley.